with meditation and mindfulness. I think I'm starting to realize more than ever that life is right now, and that you shouldn't you should stop waiting for it to start, because you're living in the moment and you'll not appreciate it. Stop living in the past, living in the future so much.
My guest in this episode was born into a small, modest family, grown in rural Northern Ireland. At school, you loved all creative things, English literature, art and drama. But after a personally difficult adolescence, you left the country to study social sciences and psychology in Scotland. You moved to London for your first job in finance recruitment, and today you work in talent acquisition for a pharmaceutical company. You've been recognised at multiple companies for achieving sales targets and winning new business. Elsewhere, you recently qualified as a meditation teacher, hold a great respect for holistic methodologies to treat anxiety, scratch your creative itch by sharing your meditation knowledge on social media. You say, "I have a lost dream of performing and creating in some way. But I enjoy documentaries, seeing my friends, gymming, the great outdoors, experiencing new countries, and more recently researching the world of mindfulness and meditation. You'd love to be more creative, attend more classes, and wish you'd learned to play piano as a child. You also happen to be my significant other." Laura McKendry, welcome to Unlived Lives.
Thank you very much.
So good to have you. And thank you so much today for helping me film the trailer for this new show, and also for being my very first guest.
Oh, you're so welcome. My pleasure. I'm honoured.
So I'm starting this show by asking, I think how it's going to work is I'm basically going to ask you 10 questions about various different relatively personal ideas and topics, as I sort of depict in the trailer, and that's sort of self-knowledge, sort of life and death and emotions and personality and who you are, to sort of prompt and get to the core of perhaps what you aren't doing. Not what you are doing, but what you could have been doing based on different decisions or different people in your life or different things happening. So here's your first question.
Okay.
And it's based upon what you've told me already. So tell me about your meditation practice.
As in the training? Or
yeah, the training and just everything about your meditation journey.
Yeah, so I think it's something I've always been interested in, the fact that it's quite spiritual and quite out there. I quite like the idea of something being more, less prescriptive, I suppose, than sort of medical stuff to treat anxiety. So I've always had anxiety, I think, since I was a little girl, and always been quite interested in the concept of how to treat that, but not really known where to start with it. But my first experience of meditation was with the Headspace app, like many people.
It's a really popular one.
Yeah, it is really good as well. But then I think it came to life more understanding the sort of cultural background and origins of it when I went to Bali a few years ago and went on a spiritual cleansing day, which meant I guess I was a bit more immersed in sort of what it's all about. And it made me think, okay, I wonder, how this can help me in my day-to-day life. And then last year, just in the midst of lockdown, I was supposed to go to a retreat in Ibiza for sort of single women, shall we say, at the time, to help, I suppose, just empower ourselves. It was sort of focusing around yoga and meditation and the benefits of that. That got cancelled because of lockdown and COVID and whatnot. So instead of that, the girl that was running that put me in touch with her meditation training teacher, who was running a new course, a pilot course online, and I signed up for it and thought, why not? And it was an incredible 3 or 4 weeks of training and learning all different types of meditation and what it's actually about, what it does, etc. And at the end of it, you got an accreditation to become a meditation teacher, which was not why I had done the course primarily, but I thought, do you know what, this stuff's too good to not share. It's really benefited me. It really transformed that point of my life. So yeah, that's kind of how it came about.
It's fascinating. No, good. So sort of going on a bit of a different tact, describe an important teacher in your life outside of school.
Oh, that's a very good question. Teacher. I mean, there's somebody I certainly looked up to a lot, more maybe as a mother figure, but someone who I admire in regards to her resilience and I guess it's a funny one. She's a double-edged sword. It was somebody who I worked with in the past, and she was very kind to me. Whenever I had my first job in London, she sort of said to me, I'm going to move on to a different company and I think that you'd be really good there. And I didn't have much confidence in my ability to do recruitment at the time, and didn't really understand it still. And she really took me under my wing and gave me lots of opportunities and taught me that women, I guess, she's sort of quite an inspirational female leader in that way. Women can do a lot more than they think they can. You don't necessarily have to work in a business where it's run only by men for it to be successful. And yeah, she did all that as a single mother, turned that company around that we joined. And I made a lot of money based on the opportunity that she gave me. So she taught me about resilience and I guess more self-belief at a very young age. And I was able to get a lot more confidence in myself because of her, the opportunities and the things that she saw in me. So...
Have you taken on what she said and sort of used that to perhaps pursue things that you wouldn't have done had you not met her?
Yeah, well, there's something she said to me when I was in my early 20s, maybe 24, 25, mid-20s. She said, what you need to stop doing, Laura, is giving an F or giving a crap what people think so much. And she did say... the first time she was able to do that was her early 30s. She said, it might take a while before you get to that point, but the most important thing, if I sort of can give you any piece of advice, and this still stands out, like I said, is just stop caring what people think so much. And I think that applies to pretty much everything in life where you're going to do something that where you don't believe in yourself, or you're not completely secure in your ability, or just going out on your own in some way. So...
amazing.
Yeah.
Time for your next question. To what extent are you prone to feel that life is elsewhere?
Life is elsewhere. A lot, in some ways. I think with age, that's changing, with mindfulness and things like that becoming more present. But certainly I have a tendency to daydream, and always have, and do dwell on, if only I'd done that course at uni or that degree, or I hadn't moved away to Scotland when I was 18 to that uni and done that, then perhaps I would have made it in some other way. Or I don't know, maybe life will start when this happens.
Right.
So that does happen. Oops, sorry. That does happen from time to time. But I don't know if this is the vein you're going down, but with meditation and mindfulness, I think I'm starting to realize more than ever that life is right now, and that you shouldn't you should stop waiting for it to start, because you're living in the moment and you'll not appreciate it. Stop living in the past, living in the future so much. So yeah, I do.
I think the important part of that question is the elsewhere, and sort of for me, it's elsewhere. Sort of, it could be in the past or in the future, or in another country, or with those friends, or when I have that piece of equipment for me, or when I have that carpet or that rug in my room, or that painting on that wall. Yeah. I will only be happy. I will only be living life once I have that. What do you think?
I see what you mean. Yeah. I feel like I do dream of when I get to a certain stage in life, then life will begin. I've got many dreams. I mean, my secret dream is so embarrassing. I used to dream of, like, I don't know, some sort of award, or starting some kind of business where I'm really important and I'm the person running the show. And that is not in my nature naturally, to be a leader, if you like. But then what is a leader? So yeah, no, I do fantasize about the what ifs. So maybe that's a secret thing that I'm still keeping alive in me somewhere, a little flame where I'm still thinking, actually, there is still that little chance. I just don't know when I'll take that leap of faith to maybe make it happen. So that does happen a lot. And I'll often be sat at work in front of my laptop going, my head won't be there in the game. It'll just be, when this is done, or when this stage of my life is happening, then that's when life will begin. So yeah. So
when did you first have that? You said that you had that dream about being, the head of a company, or starting a business. When did you first have that?
Quite a while ago. I mean, I don't think it crossed my mind. The business thing didn't certainly cross my mind in my sort of early to mid 20s whatsoever. Probably my late 20s, I would fantasize about breaking free from the 9-to-5 schedule I was working, especially when I made the change from working in an agency to directly for a pharmaceutical company. I sort of felt like I'm just working for someone else and I'm not making as much money. So it was a bit like, I want to take the skills I've learnt and do something more inspiring with it, or more independent, so I'm not answering to someone. But the creative side of it, so the little sort of fantasy of performing or winning an award for doing something amazing, whether that was acting, I mean, that has been in me since I can remember, I think. Maybe not the award, but just being on stage or being applauded for doing something. So yeah, I guess it's in a lot of people.
Acting.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I mean, I guess like a lot of people who at any point were in a school play. I think people that were in school plays could all relate to this, and there's a lot of people that will have been a lead in a school play. But those moments where I was doing drama for GCSE and or even before that, when I was in primary school, the first sort of taste of being on stage or acting or performing in some way came when my primary school teacher picked me to sing the solo at our Christmas carol in this big church. And I sang Once in Royal David City, and then I got picked as a lead part in a school play at primary school, and then at high school I put myself forward for the lead female roles.
And how did that? So you did that, and then so why didn't you end up pursuing acting?
Lots of reasons. I think my family. I didn't come from a very creative. Well, Mum was into pastel painting, and she was quite an artist in some ways. But Dad was very, introverted, wasn't a performer, shied away from anything like that. Didn't necessarily take too much of an interest. I hate saying this, but he didn't take too much of an interest in my performing side of things. I think it was more encouraged in my family to be, do well in your exams, do something academic, sensible, if you like. That would make money. I don't think it mattered what it was really, but certainly the creative thing wasn't maybe taken seriously. So yeah, probably for that reason.
Your next question.
Such a grilling.
What makes you envious?
Oh God. So so much. That's a horrible question. What makes me envious? Seeing other people, and I mean this in the best possible way, because I know envy is one of the 7 sins, right, of the human. I'm envious of people who've been brave enough to take a leap when they're very young, or been encouraged by their families, maybe when they were young, to go and do something they really wanted to do, that they were good at, and that was recognized in them and just nurtured, and never made to feel that, you know, doing anything else had to be the option, really. So people who've made it or are doing that with their lives and have had that solid sort of belief system in them for a long time, I'm envious of that. I'm envious of people who have maybe had a similar life to me, a corporate job, 9 to 5, and have packed it in and gone and done something else, or are doing it and are doing it very well. So the balls it takes to do that, my goodness.
Sure. But do you think envy is you said it was one of the 7 sins. Do you think it is only negative? Envy?
No. I've learned this recently more than ever, it's actually it's a very important human emotion to feel, I think, especially as a child. It gives you it spurs you on to do better and to be better, perhaps, if you channel it in the right way. Instead of sitting there and not taking action, it can hopefully make you follow suit in some way, or inspire you. So in some ways, it depends. If you don't act on it and just sit there and wallow and become resentful, which I can do from time to time, just be like, I hate them. I don't mean it, but if it makes you get off your ass and actually start doing something you want to do.
So there's something to gain from it. Yeah,
if you use it in the right way and can chant it, if you understand it.
So in that way, do you think it should be pushed down or pushed away or faux pas in the way that, you know, when you first heard the question, and that's a horrible question because it's not talked about much, is it? Who are you envious of? You know, that's not a question that somebody asks you off the bat, you know, when you're out for a drink, you know, but I think it's what I've, you know, discovered in my own journey is much more recently through mental health and psychotherapy and things, is that envy is a great teacher.
Yes.
And actually to listen to those envies and sort of going, well, what is it about that person that makes me want to nigh on be them? You know, basically, why am I jealous of the fact that they have that, or that they've done this, and trying to trace that back to the reason why? You know, what is it about that I think if I had that, I would be so much happier, or whatever, you know, what is it about that thing, you know? And I just find that so interesting. And I think to be able to actually embrace those thoughts and those ideas, you know, from idols or from people, contemporaries, and sort of going, or rivals indeed, and going, wow, you've done an amazing thing that I'm jealous of, but actually that's embracing that and going, I want that too. So, you know, and making it spur you on rather than sitting there and, you know, I mean, we all have that too, I imagine, but sort of going, oh, you feel just so small and jealous. But yeah, I think it's a really, really curious idea. And I don't think it's talked about enough. Hence asking you the question. Yeah,
know your idols. That's something you once asked me outside of this. Like, who do you admire? And I couldn't answer it. And that's worrying. So I think it was great to be able to try and think and identify people that I admire. And
certainly. Who do you know, what's your goal?
Yeah.
Like, if you could be someone, who would you be? You know, their successes, their failures, their everything. Who is a person that you go, that's it? Because if you don't have that person, then you've got what's your goal? Who are you aspiring to? You know, and that doesn't mean you have to be everything. You don't have to literally be that person, but to take something from them, that idea, that power, that passion, that drive or whatever it is that they have, or that peace, or that ability to relax, or that, it doesn't necessarily need to be extraordinary. It can be just actually feeling quite at peace. You're very interested in meditation, mindfulness, so it might actually be in the polar opposite direction to what most people would classically think as glamorous and famous and glorious and an actress and wow, you're just so fabulous. But actually it could be in the other direction of just being able to just be calm and within yourself, and Nuno's come to say hello to me. Hello, good boy, wonderful boy. Next question, in a totally different area. Ooh. What are the best features of middle age?
Ooh, best features of middle age. I think the first thing that comes to mind would be you know yourself more than ever. So you've been through a lot of experiences by that point, normally in most people's lives, of, whether that's moving homes or new change of jobs, relationships changing, maybe illnesses in different ways, and things that different challenges and changes, I think obviously nurture your character. So by that point, I think it's sort of knowing how you react to those different scenarios. So that's really nice. I think at that point, hopefully, I'm in my mind, I'm not quite at middle age yet, am I? You care less.
No, you're not at middle age.
Maybe you care less about what people think so much, so you're more confident, a little bit more self-belief or self-love. I don't know. I would hope this is where I veer to.
You're talking stereotypically rather than sort of in general. You imagine
what I'll be like.
The best features of middle age are for everyone, or you personally?
I think most people. I think certainly the experiences, they're more equipped, more experienced, so therefore hopefully feel more armoured and know their reactions better, can harness on experience to be able to tackle, things that might come out of the blue. Knowing what you like and what you don't like, I think certainly maybe more so. So being sure about, what you enjoy, maybe understanding your interests more. But again, a lot of that depends on what's going on around you circumstantially, if that's going off topic. I think it still comes back to the not caring as much, because for me personally, I know I've always been self-conscious about how I look and things like that. So I think by then, again, perhaps, if there were other people, other dependents around at that stage, then it wouldn't be so much about me. That would almost take that pressure, if you like, off worrying about myself so much, and life wouldn't be so self-centered. I'd hope that you'd have more freedom in some ways in that respect. So yeah, knowing yourself, caring less, being more equipped to deal with different challenges, because by then, no doubt, you'll have been through a few things. Knowing what you like and what you don't like. Having a small circle of friends, hopefully, you can trust.
Interesting. I think, that I agree. Yeah. I agree. Because when you're 20, I know my 20s were just a shambles. So yeah, absolutely. You've just been through enough potentially to sort of go, oh, I'm into that and I'm not into that. And I like you and I don't like you. And actually, I don't want to go out tonight.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Hopefully. Next question.
This is fun. Oh, God.
In what respects are you still the same person you were as a child?
Oh. This is very... I feel like you're peeling me like an onion.
Well, Unlived Lives, I think the answers to that lie backwards. and now, so you can then formulate a new future, potentially. If it's an exploration, right?
Yeah. I still have a very playful side, and I still love secretly that performance validation you get. So response, even if it's through my work where I have to do a presentation, or sometimes I teach meditation and stretching and stuff like that at work, I love the feedback I get after doing something like that. And I've always loved that as a child, and I guess most people have that in them. I like to think I'm still curious and inquisitive and interested in new things. Not as much as maybe I was. Maybe that's still down a little bit. But I know I was certainly I always wanted to join in what my big sisters were doing, for example, and learn about what they were doing. My nickname used to be Me Too, because I used to always be like, Me Too, when they were doing something that I thought could be fun. I think I'm very open-minded. I suppose that translates in that way into adulthood. But other traits are, I think I was an anxious little girl in some ways. Always chewed my nails, still do that. Don't know where that came from. Still look for that feedback and validation. I certainly, even in the working world today, respond better to the carrot rather than the stick method of being praised and encouraged. A little bit, obviously, you've got to kind of get on with it sometimes without that. But there's no feeling to me better than whenever somebody says you've done a really good job of that. I love that. And I've had that since I was little. And yeah, just being the center of attention at times. I loved the spotlight being on me as a little girl, like on stage as a teenage girl. So yeah, and I haven't had the opportunity to really have that in my
recruitment.
Yeah. Apart from sometimes when you do really well, hit sales targets, you get celebrated.
Sure.
It's very different.
Yeah. It's not the same as being glorified on stage and
for
being
a talent or a skill.
Indeed given applause.
Yeah.
Many applause in the corporate world?
No.
No.
There's a lot of escalations and we need to sort this out. Someone's not happy with X, Y, and Z. Let's find a solution rather than, or there'll be, you've hit your KPIs. That's good. Keep hitting your KPIs. The end. It's not really.
Well done for hitting your KPIs.
No, yeah, exactly. It's, it's your job. You're paid to do it. So your salary is your applause. But after a while, your brain gets a bit.
Next question. This is slightly more relaxing one, I reckon. Describe a memory or a taste. No. Describe a memory of a taste or smell and what it evokes for you.
Oh, that's a good question. All about the senses these days. So a smell or a taste.
Yeah.
That evokes. I think smells are a big thing for me. I know I drive you crazy with all my plugins.
I've been sneezing a lot more.
I'm sorry.
Since you moved in, I have to say. Yeah. I think my nose is just not used to it. Anyway.
I'll cut that down. I think a smell that I remember very well is the mossy grass and the pine and fir trees outside of my bedroom window as a little girl. Because I grew up in a very old house, a very old farmhouse, and there were lots of trees right outside my room, big gardens, and we had very mossy grass. It was very spongy, and I spent a lot of time daydreaming, climbing trees, laying on that grass, padding around it. I remember distinctly studying for my GCSEs outside or some sort of exams or tests at high school, taking my books out into the garden. I loved to do it. Putting a little blanket down and laying on the grass and looking up at the sky with the trees around. And that smell of being outside when it's sort of like early spring, I felt really calm and really in control. And yeah, I think it was a very happy time. I loved nothing more than studying and working hard at school, which sounds really sad. But I think that's the validation thing probably coming into play there. But it's certainly a very comforting thing when I'm outside these days in nature or somewhere where I get that smell again. It takes me right back to feeling just at home and comforted and like everything's okay. So yeah, I think smell's a very powerful thing. So
have you experienced that sensation since you left your childhood home?
That feeling of everything will be okay was what I had back then. It wasn't even a matter of doubt. It was just, I remember feeling very happy. So probably not. I mean, there's been, that sounds awful. It makes me sound really sad and depressed, but it's not what I'm getting at. I think because I've known more and I've experienced so much more since that point of my life, I tend to veer on the side of anxiousness more than ever. But certainly this is what plays into the meditation and mindfulness thing. I think the time that I felt most empowered and in control and that I was learning something off my own accord and something that I could give back and talk about with confidence was when I did that teacher training course in mindfulness and meditation.
Sure.
And that feeling of having a little purpose, if you like, to go and share that afterwards. And yeah, just after some of the meditations, really calm and just really peaceful. And like anything could have sort of happened and I would have been all right and just not reacted, if that makes sense.
I really like that question because I have a smell, and that perhaps says a lot about me very quickly. But the smell of new carpet reminds me of my bedroom. When the extension on the house, and my bedroom was in that extension, and so it was decorated, and so the smell of new carpet and this lovely, beautiful blue carpet and blue curtains with little yellow suns on them.
That's cute.
Yeah, they were cute curtains, and which overlooked a field. It was very lovely. But that smell of new carpet, and every time I smell new carpet, it brings me back to that bedroom and brings me back to childhood and being in that room and just doing what I was doing in that room. But it's amazing that, isn't it, how that transports you. And again, I love those moments because they totally catch you off guard when they happen. And so I find it very interesting. Anyway, next question. Would you consider having, this is probably, this is question number 8, so this is probably the most severe.
Oh, God.
Would you consider having psychotherapy, and what would you hope to discover from it?
Would I consider having psychotherapy? Well, I'm currently having psychotherapy, and I have been for, that kind of therapy for about 6 months now. And what are the benefits from it? Is that what the other part of the question
And what would you hope to discover from it?
Well, I can tell you what I have discovered and what I still continue to discover and hope to discover. So I think the most important things I've learned from it about myself are that your childhood and your earliest years and experiences are probably the most influential, impactful, shaping times of your life, and will go on to influence your actions, decisions, reactions, emotions in the years to come, and will play out probably for the rest of your life in a lot of ways. But what it does teach you, and what I hope it continues to teach me, is to be able to become aware of it every time it happens, to understand it, why it's happening, accept it, and maybe catch it in the moment before it could potentially be destructive or not a positive sort of outcome from whatever that thing is. That has been imprinted on me since even, I think, as far as those first few months as a baby, you know, how you responded to your mother's love, or, you know, how you were able to self-soothe, can't say that. You know, your relationship with your father and your mother are fundamental, and on your siblings, to your interactions with males and females, I think, in your life. And you tend to go, I think I've learned, you tend to become attracted initially to the familiar. So what people classically say, don't they? You end up with marrying someone like your father, because it's, you, in terms of the male sort of person or character in your life, you tend to sort of gravitate towards what you know, because it feels safe, even if it maybe wasn't the best relationship you could have had, or maybe not the healthiest. And then those sort of clashes and issues that you maybe had with your father then play out in that relationship, for example. So yeah, I think it's incredibly important, and everyone can find out so much about themselves, whether they're, you know, going through really difficult times in their life or not. I think it just prevents you from having, you know, too much of a perhaps inevitable breakdown if you haven't been able to unravel a lot of the maybe traumas or just different emotional stories that have played out in your relationships as a child. So it's a very safe place to go to. It's a constant, it's consistently there. There's no judgment or shame when you go in there and talk. And it's a place for you just to let anything come out, and then it helps you and allows you to give space to unravel it and make sense of it. So highly recommend it.
It's time for your next question. Is there anything you regret not doing due to fear?
So many. How long have we got? How long's a piece of string? God, I have a lot of regrets already, but I know there's no point in dwelling on the regrets now, because those times have been and gone. But I regret not focusing more on, when I was little, I loved drawing and I was very good at art. So either really utilizing that and focusing on that in some way as a child or a young adult. And to this day, I mean, I'm trying to focus on that a little bit more, with having art lessons at the weekend, and learning to paint and just open up that part of my brain again. I regret not doing the degree that I still to this day believe I should have done, that would have taken me down a completely different road, but then I wouldn't maybe have ended up here in this life. I really wanted to do drama and study that at uni. I loved it. I just loved the whole shebang. Maybe not so much the technical stuff, like the lighting. I was bad at that, but I liked just understanding a character, getting under the skin of a character and putting my spin on it, being someone else. So I regret not doing that degree and not pursuing drama or acting in some way. Even, I mean, I know it's not too late to maybe do some kind of amateur dramatics thing, but I think for me, I wanted to either present or be on a soap. I don't know, anything. So I regret not pursuing my acting in some way. I think those are the main. In other ways, I'm really proud of myself and things I have done. So it did take a lot of courage to move away to Scotland at 18. I know a lot of people do it, but for me personally, it was very tricky. And then do it again when I was 22 on my own. So I'm quite proud of myself for doing that with very little support or knowledge of how the world worked at all. But I regret I regret caring so much about what other people thought as well in a lot of times. But I understand why I did, and I don't blame myself for it because of different experiences I've been through. And regret mainly not pursuing just the creativity that still lives in me very much.
And if you made, it's so interesting, if you made a different decision which drastically changed your life, say you did take that degree in acting rather than psychology, is there anything you would, and it led you down a completely different path, is there anything that you would miss about your life since that point, since that decision, that probably wouldn't have happened if you did acting instead?
Well, another thing I forgot to mention before was the whole piano thing, because I had a really bad teacher who used to hit my fingers with a ruler, and she told me my fingers were too stumpy and I couldn't do the chords right. Anyway, so that's another thing, because I was very good at making up little songs. Anyway, sorry, back to the question. I could have been an all singing, all dancing, acting, performing artist.
Piano playing.
Everything. Just everything. No, so in terms of what you just asked, I don't think I would have been so well travelled. I don't think I would have taken the leap of faith to move from Ireland. I think I'd still be in that country. I don't think I would have studied. Well, I definitely would not. The course and degree I wanted to do at uni was based in Belfast at Queen's. So I would have stayed there in that country and probably wouldn't have moved. So I think in some ways I've become a lot more streetwise, if you like, having had to move. Well, not had to move, but choosing to move, having to make new friends in Scotland and learn how to, cook and look after myself, understand how renting a flat works, just really silly things, learning how to survive, learn how to find my way around London when I didn't have a clue how the tube worked when I first moved. That was daunting. I wouldn't have, built so many parts of myself where I feel really confident and secure in, with travel and meeting new people, knowing how to talk to people that I don't know. And in the line of work I've had, it's equipped me in so many ways. And I'm very grateful for that, even just basics, how to write a good email, how to come across really professional, how to interview well, how to handle pretty much any objection in terms of sales, to sort of influence people in that way. A lot of tenacity and resilience in lots of ways when you're not hitting your sales targets. So I've grown up a lot, I think, because I moved away. I grew up very quickly when I did that.
Yeah, so you probably would have been able to adapt, to a different life had you made that decision differently. Because, do you think you're adaptable? Would you have been able to survive?
Oh, yeah. I think it would have been more difficult for me to, deal with change. I still struggle with change, but I've had to go through that so many times with moving around since leaving home. Different relationships not working out, all different reasons, different jobs taking me different places. Whereas I think if I'd stayed back in the country where I grew up, I wouldn't have learned to cope with that. I would have had quite a nice sort of maybe more sheltered, calmer, more consistent living situation, perhaps. I don't know. I'm sure. Yeah, I think I'm adaptable. I don't know if I'd be just as resilient as I am now if I'd stayed in that country. That country is quite backwards in some ways, and I don't think anyone living there would disagree. Not everyone's like that, but it's just such a small place. So coming to somewhere like London at that age on my own, I think really helped me.
That must have been quite a contrast.
Oh, yes. Luckily I'd lived in Dundee in Scotland, so, quite a scummy city where there's lots of dodgy things around there. But obviously very small scale. London was just terrifying at first. My best friend Laura, thank goodness for her, she has lived there all her life, so she was there to help me settle in at first. But yeah, that was very different to the rolling hills of Ireland. Living in Tooting, was where I first moved to, and then I worked at London Bridge, right? Busy place, and just a small town Irish girl who just didn't really know much about anything. So yeah, very different.
Incredible, incredibly brave.
Oh,
Incredibly brave. Your last question.
Drum roll.
Who or what might have stopped you from realising your full potential?
Well, myself, first of all. If I hadn't been through different things I've been through, which have been quite difficult, so different things with my family over the years and different relationships, had some horrible boyfriends who cheated on me and things like that. So that kind of makes your confidence die a little bit at the time when you go through experiences like that. So that is always a danger if you don't recover. I mean, everyone recovers from that eventually, that kind of thing. But it certainly puts a dent in your self-belief in more ways than you realize, I think. So I think I've always been the biggest thing that's in my own way. But that's come from a multitude of events and circumstances that were and were not in my control. I think, hence the therapy, I think being one of the best things I could do to help mitigate that now at this stage. But I think parents always have a huge influence on someone's self-belief. Not to their own fault, I think a lot of the time your parents do the best they can possibly do based on their own experiences, but perhaps when they bring you up as a child, they don't quite realise how those little details, those little minutes that they spend with you, really listening and asking questions and taking an interest in what you think and what you have to say can, I keep using the word, but imprint on your mind forever. And oh gosh, no one will really want to know because they never really listened to me when I was little, so why would they want to hear about me now? So, that had the potential to hold me back and still does to a degree. Those experiences and then experiences in bad relationships that ended up being quite toxic, and I stayed in some that were maybe not the best thing to stay in. And, your confidence and your little inner flame dies out a little bit when you're not... I don't know, not in the best frame of mind. But now I think at the minute it's myself. And it's, I'm in a really good place at the minute. I mean, I've met a nice guy and I'm living somewhere really nice and, my job's good. So, it's up to me to now take life by the horns a little bit more and explore with the help of things like therapy to talk some things out and take some more leaps of faith while I'm still young. And I'll never think that I can live my full potential, but there's certainly a lot more opportunity for me to do some things that I've never done before. I mean, I'm saying that now. Ask me the same question in 5 years and see if I've done anything, but I don't think it's ever too late for people, really. And I do believe that saying, it's just about living it. I think you can always start again. You always can in some way. And the more focus that people put on that, the better, I reckon. But yeah, for me personally, the biggest thing that could stop me living at my potential is myself still. So hopefully that won't be the case forever.
Laura McKendry, thank you very much for being my first guest on Unlived Lives.
My pleasure. It was an honour. Thank you so much. I loved it.
If you enjoyed this exploration into Laura's unlived life, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the YouTube channel for a new episode every Wednesday. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know in the comments section. I hope you enjoyed listening.